Bright Light's the newest set of Flesh and Blood releases across the world today, and there's no doubt that this set is very, very different than any set that's come before it, in approach, in structure, and in content. But on top of that, one of the largest themes of this set, EVOs, is taking one of the fundamental concepts of FaB and turning it on its head. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Happy EVO release to everyone, and welcome to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. Thanks for joining me for our release day video talking about how EVO as a set, or I guess as a concept, is turning a lot of things we've come to accept about Flesh and Blood upside down. Now, as we go through today's video, take a minute and leave a comment below letting me know what you're excited most about in this new set. Are you a longtime mech upgrading, jumping into mech for the first time, or are you going to sit on the sidelines and limited play the snot out of this set? Now, one of the fundamental concepts of Flesh and Blood is the start full mechanic. Your hero comes into battle with full health, wielding their weapon, and wearing a full set of gear. But as the game goes on, your hero gets weaker and weaker. Our armor can be used to defend, but at the price of becoming less effective or perhaps breaking altogether. But EVOs are a very different playstyle to this concept. We start with base equipment that, let's be honest, isn't super great. But assuming they don't get blown up, it only gets better and better from there. Teklevazen is of course the poster child for this strategy. He wants to basically survive while he equips what we need, making him stronger as he goes. It also makes his attacks much more stronger or much more efficient. And of course, one of the big draws from the set is Teklevazen, am I right? Who builds his board state of sorts to become the evil, more than human, upgraded cyborg robot thingamajigger. Sure, we don't know how good that will end up being, but it sure as heck looks pretty cool. Now, I want to be fair about something. Board state building in its truest sense isn't completely new to Flesh and Blood. Dash has been doing a turtle item strategy since the early days, and we of course have the hugely popular Dromai, who is, ideally at least, flooding the board with dragons. But this strategy is a very new spin on it, at least from a practical standpoint in Flesh and Blood, right? Interacting with the start full mechanic, and now instead of being able to start weak and build from there, is kind of a fun shift to the game, very new approach. Now, another thing that's impressed me about the turning it on its head, if you will, is Bright Lights really as a product itself, right? So let's go ahead and start with, the obvious conversation of being an all-mech set. That's very different than what we've been used to in terms of having different classes, and maybe two ways. Look at Tales of Aria, right? We have 3 heroes and kind of 2 fundamental ways to play each one of those. But this set, all mech, non-talent, but yet they've still managed to create identities, as it were, that each hero seems to embody, but yet doesn't have to. And that'll be very interesting to see how kind of that goes in the future and how it interacts with the old strategies, right? I mean, historically, what have we seen for mech? Well, we've seen kind of the board state one we talked about, and then really just the full-on boost strategy. That's really what we've seen for mech. And let's be clear, mech's going to look very, very, very different kind of as a whole class. Maybe it already does now since the set is already kind of effectively been out for a little bit. So that's very cool. And then on top of that, we have a set that is or appears to be at least very limited focused, and it's even changing the way that we, right, for sealed, you only do 4 packs instead of 6, right? And to be clear, that makes complete sense, but we're changing basically everything that for the last 10 sets, right, this being the 11th set, for the last 10 sets, we've played Flesh and Blood the same way. Now we're playing it very differently. We also have crack, shuffle, play, which is another way to potentially get new players in. And then on top of that, speaking of the new player thing, there's no decks for this, right? There's no Blitz decks for this particular one. So we can steer folks ideally to the crack, shuffle, play, or whatever it may be. And none of that is bad. None of that's a complaint. I don't know that it's good either, but it's different, right? And it's very much changing up a lot of different approaches. Is it an experiment of sorts? Sure. I mean, they're going to look at the data. There's definitely trying new things and definitely changing up the way that we approach Flesh and Blood. So I'm very excited to see how this set ends up landing and how things integrate from, the constructed side. I'd be very surprised if we don't end up with some sort of max velocity decks flying around the meta headed into, will it be at Worlds? I mean, somebody would be playing it at Worlds, right? Will it do well at Worlds? I honestly don't, right? I honestly don't know. But that seems like such a low-hanging aggro fruit that it seems worth trying out. The Teklo Bossin build, I don't know that we'll have enough time to get that enough developed, but it seems like a cool strategy to try. And then, do you go, in terms of the max velocity, do you do the max double X, go max on that for max velo? Or do you kind of go OG dash starting with a pounder or maybe even induction chamber in play? Again, a lot of ways we can go. And I think that not just the Mechanologist side of things, but I think that after this set, things are going to look a little different, which is a good thing. So anyway, folks, thanks for joining me today. I want to wish you all the best luck. Hopefully you're running out to your LGSs this weekend to either draft or probably draft, but I know we've got Crack Shuffle Play going on for our Armory event at Gongai this weekend. Adam and Kevin will be running that. It's going to be a great time. But either way, however you choose to participate or consume it, have a great time. Nothing else, folks. Go Commando.